Assalamu alaikum. As viewers of this channel know, Slack stock has been part of the Practical Islamic Finance portfolio since March of 2020 when I first recommended it. Recently, Slack has been acquired by Salesforce. So in this video, I'm going to update you on what I've done with my Slack position. For those who just want the conclusion, the TLDW crowd, I sold my Slack position. So if that's what you're looking for, that's the answer you're seeking, and you're about to leave, I encourage you to leave a like before you do, and I'll see you next time. For the rest of you, in this video, I'm going to go over exactly what happened, my analysis of it, why I made the decision to sell, and some reflections on my experience with Slack stock. So without further ado, let's get started. First, let's get caught up with what exactly happened. Salesforce confirms a $27.7 billion deal to buy Slack. The company confirmed it would buy Slack with shareholders receiving $26.79 in cash and 0.0776 shares of Salesforce common stock for each Slack share. At the time, this deal was worth around $45 per share, but since then, Salesforce stock has dropped in price. Now, Salesforce said it expects the acquisition to close in its fiscal second quarter, which ends in July 2021. Now, to make sense of this deal, for those who are unfamiliar with what Slack and Salesforce do, here's a really brief overview. Slack offers a product that is basically a replacement for email. Instead of the very narrow windows of visibility into the happenings of an organization that people get with traditional email, with Slack, users can gain visibility into the important discussions that are happening in their organization and see these discussions organized into channels. And while Slack started off as simply a replacement for email, it has developed somewhat into a social network for people who are at work. And I think there is where the real upside for this company lied. Salesforce, on the other hand, was founded in 1999, and it was basically the first major player in the software as a service space. And they started out with their customer relations management software, which is why their ticker symbol is CRM, very clever, I know, and later expanded into other enterprise software offerings focused on customer service, marketing, automation, analytics, and application development. As a company, Salesforce has swelled into a behemoth of a company with a market cap close to $200 billion. Now, to be completely honest, I was neither that happy or that surprised by the announcement that Salesforce was going to acquire Slack. The reason why I wasn't that happy is because from an investor standpoint, I thought that Slack offered more upside potential as a standalone company than it does as a part of Salesforce. Having said this, I think it makes a ton of sense for Salesforce to acquire Slack, and that's why I wasn't too surprised by the announcement. The reason why I think it makes a ton of sense is because Salesforce can bundle Slack with its other offerings and basically do what Microsoft has been doing with their Teams competitor to Slack and basically give Microsoft a taste of their own medicine. Now, why did I sell my Slack stocks? Well, even though the conversion to Salesforce stock isn't going to happen until mid-2021, the stock itself, Slack stock, is likely going to behave exactly like Salesforce stock until that time. So it's as if you own Salesforce stock already because the conversion is already set to happen. So holding Slack's stock is essentially like investing in Salesforce. And the reason why I am not investing in Salesforce right now, even though from what I can tell, it's likely a promising company. However, I have no first-hand experience with any of Salesforce's products. You see, when I invested in Slack, I was intimately familiar with the Slack product. And this is what gave me confidence over the last 8 months when the stock price was basically doing a whole lot of nothing. My familiarity with Slack's product and how useful it was and how dependent on it I was in my work gave me confidence that the upside for this company was eventually going to materialize. And again, as I said, I simply don't have this firsthand experience with Salesforce's products. Now, how did this investment pay off for me? Well, I made my Slack stock recommendation in March of 2020. At the time, it was trading for $28.21. It basically hovered around the $30 per share mark ever since until it was announced in late November that Salesforce was in talks to acquire Slack, at which point it jumped to $40 a share. Now, my average price buying into Slack stock was $29.23. I ended up selling my position on December 2nd for a price of $42.65. This was a return of around 46% in 8 months, or an annualized return of around 70%. Now, my target annualized return when I'm investing in public equities is 30% annualized return, so this investment was successful for me, alhamdulillah. Now, something you want to consider before you make a sell decision is what is this going to mean for your taxes? So in the United States, if you sell for a profit, you sell stocks for a profit, and you haven't held that stock for more than 1 year, you're going to pay taxes on your gains exactly like you pay taxes on the rest of your income. However, if you've held that stock for more than 1 year, then you only pay 15%. So for those who are unfamiliar, in the United States, depending on your tax bracket, income taxes are typically around 30% and sometimes more. So you want to take into consideration the taxes that you'll have to pay when you're making the decision whether to sell your Slack stock or not. That's one factor. And I should say, nothing in this video is meant to be financial advice. Make sure you do your own due diligence. Now, for the Practical Islamic Finance Portfolio, the reason why I closed out the Slack position is because I'm sharing this portfolio with you, and I want to make sure that when you look at the most up-to-date version of the portfolio, it contains the stocks that I think have a decent chance of achieving at least a 30% annualized return over the next 2 to 3 years. And since Slack no longer met that criteria, I took it out. Don't worry about me. The amount that I sold in the Practical Islamic Finance Portfolio was not a large amount. The bulk of my shares are in my self-directed retirement account. And in that account, I don't have to worry about taxes because it's a retirement account. I'm not taxed on gains in those accounts. You can find an updated version of the Practical Islamic Finance Portfolio in the description. You can invest in it if you're in the United States using the M1 Finance link, and you'll be supporting the channel if you do. If you're outside the United States, you can always just look at the portfolio and replicate it for yourself. I think I have an idea of what stock I'm going to put in place of the Slack stock that is no longer in the Practical Islamic Finance Portfolio, but I want to do a little more research before I share it with you. I hope you found this video beneficial. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like. Until next time, make sure to take care of yourself. Assalamu alaikum and peace be upon you all.